Chloe stared at the girl sitting across from her in the cafeteria. Madison, with her bright green eyes and shiny blonde hair, was the most popular girl at West Hill High School. Everyone wanted to be in her circle, and now, somehow, Chloe was. Sitting with her, "Do you have any siblings?" Madison asked casually, taking a bite of her sandwich. Chloe froze. She looked down at her untouched apple and felt her chest tighten. There was a simple answer. One word. Yes, but she couldn't say it. The truth was too complicated, too messy. The truth came with eyes that didn't always look at you, hands that flapped when excited, and loud sounds in the middle of quiet rooms. The truth had a name: Eli. Eli was her older brother. He was 19, didn't speak much, and spent most of his days drawing shapes in the air or listening to the same song over and over. He had autism, severe autism. He wasn't like the older brothers her friends talked about. He didn't drive a car, or tease her about boys, or give advice. He didn't go to parties or post selfies or play football. He didn't even go to regular school, and Chloe hated the way people looked at her when she mentioned him. The pause, the awkward smile, the pity, she couldn't bear that look again. Not from Madison, not from anyone at the school, so she looked up with a sad face and whispered, "I had a brother, but he died when I was little." The lie fell from her lips like poison. Madison's eyes widened. "Oh my God, I'm so sorry." "I didn't know." Chloe forced a small smile and looked away. Her heart thudded painfully in her chest. That was it. The lie was out, and just like that, she was safe. No questions, no pity, no weird stares. Madison reached out and touched her hand. "That must have been so hard. You're so strong, Chloe." Chloe nodded. She didn't feel strong. She felt like a fraud, but when the bell rang and the girls walked out of the cafeteria together, all she could feel was relief. The lie had worked. She had just killed off her brother, and the popular kids had opened their arms to her. For the first time since transferring to West Hill, Chloe felt like she belonged, but she had no idea how much that lie would cost her. Chloe lived in a small two-bedroom house with her mom and Eli. Her dad had left years ago. He'd said he couldn't handle it anymore. Chloe was only 7 then, but she remembered the shouting, the crying, the sound of the front door slamming. After he left, Mom had to work double shifts as a nurse. Chloe had to grow up fast. She made dinner sometimes, helped Eli when Mom was too tired, and learned to read his moods without him saying a word. But as she got older, things got harder. Especially in middle school, people started asking questions. Why does your brother act like that? Is he okay? Is he stupid? She hated those questions. She hated that she didn't know how to answer them. So by high school, Chloe made a decision. She would keep Eli a secret. She never brought friends home. She never talked about family. She smiled and nodded and told half-truths. And then, that day in the cafeteria, she went even further. She killed Eli off with a lie. The worst part, she started to feel like life without Eli was easier. At school, she was free. No one judged her. No one knew. She was just Chloe, the funny girl who dressed well, laughed easily, and hung out with the cool kids. But at home, the weight of her life followed her everywhere. "Hey baby," her mom said that night, setting down a plate of spaghetti. "How was school?" "Fine," Chloe replied, stirring the noodles with her fork. Eli sat at the other end of the table, rocking gently, humming his favorite TV theme song. He clapped his hands 3 times, then stopped suddenly. His eyes lit up at the steam rising from his plate. "Spaghetti, he said in a stretched-out, sing-song voice. Chloe forced a smile. Eli looked at her and grinned. Then, without warning, he grabbed his fork and held it up like a sword. Chloe jumped back, instinctively shielding her face. Her mom sighed. "Eli, no fork stays down, buddy." He slowly lowered the fork, then laughed to himself. Chloe looked away, her heart pounding. At school, she was building a new image, cool, calm, composed. At home, her real life didn't match at all. The next day, Madison invited her over to hang out after school. My parents are gone, so we can chill at mine and maybe watch something on Netflix. Chloe smiled brightly. Sure, sounds fun. Inside, she was screaming, what if Madison ever came over to her house? What if she saw Eli? What if someone else at school found out the truth? She had to be careful, very careful, so she started building walls around her life. She created a whole new version of herself, an only child, raised by a single hard-working mom, still grieving her lost brother. She even made up stories about him. She said he liked to paint, that he had a gentle laugh, that he died in a car crash when she was 5. Each time she told the story, it hurt less. Each time, it felt easier to leave the real Eli behind, but lies have a way of growing, and soon, Chloe's lie would explode in a way she could never control. One Friday afternoon, Madison was scrolling through Instagram in the cafeteria. Hey Chloe, you're not on social media much, huh? She asked, raising an eyebrow. Chloe shrugged. Yeah, I don't really post much. Well, I'm gonna tag you in the photo from last weekend. Madison clicked through the app and accidentally tapped on a tag connected to Chloe's name. A different account popped up. One Chloe hadn't touched in over a year, her old account. The one with family photos, including Eli. Madison tilted her head, confused. Hey, who's this? She asked, turning the phone around. Chloe's heart stopped. On the screen was a photo of Chloe and Eli at the park. She was holding his hand. He was wearing headphones and smiling at the camera. Chloe snatched the phone from Madison's hands. It's no one. That's really old. Just a friend. But Madison wasn't buying it. Wait, is that your brother? Chloe panicked. No, I told you, my brother died. Madison frowned. Then why does the caption say, my brother being silly again? Other students were looking now. A few heads turned. One girl whispered something. Chloe felt the walls close in, the lie was cracking, and soon everything she built was going to come crashing down. Whispers filled the school halls before Chloe even stepped off the bus the next morning. It started with a few stares. Then came the texts. Short ones, cold ones. Why'd you lie? Is your brother alive or not? You said he was dead. Why would you lie about something like that? Chloe's phone buzzed nonstop as she stood at her locker, fingers trembling. Her heart raced as she read message after message. She had never felt so exposed. By the time she reached her first class, everyone seemed to know. She walked in, and the room fell silent. Madison was already in her seat, arms crossed, a hard look in her eyes. Chloe paused mid-step. The weight of her lie pressed down like a heavy coat in summer. Every eye in the room felt like a spotlight. She slid into her seat, trying to avoid anyone's gaze. Her hands shook under the desk. When class ended, Madison stood and walked right up to her. You lied to me, she said, her voice loud enough for others to hear. I didn't mean to. You told me your brother was dead. You even made up a story about how he died. Her voice cracked with disgust. Who does that, Chloe? Chloe opened her mouth to respond, but nothing came out. A few students stood nearby, listening. One of them laughed awkwardly. Another whispered something into her friend's ear. Chloe heard the word psycho. I was your friend, Madison continued. And you lied just to fit in. That's messed up. Then she walked off, and others followed her lead, leaving Chloe standing alone. The lie that had once protected her now sat on her chest like a stone, crushing her from the inside. At home, things were quiet, too quiet. Chloe sat at the dinner table, pushing food around her plate. Eli was humming softly next to her, playing with his spoon. Her mom noticed her pale face. Are you okay, sweetie? Chloe shook her head. I messed up, Mom. Her mom put down her fork. What happened? I told people at school that Eli was dead. She swallowed hard. I didn't mean to at first, but then I just kept lying. Her mother stared at her in shock. She opened her mouth, then closed it again. Finally, she whispered, Why would you say something like that? I was ashamed, Chloe said, tears spilling down her face. I didn't want them to make fun of me. They always asked why he acted different, why he made noise or flapped his hands. I just wanted to be normal. Her mom's eyes welled up. She looked at Eli, who was now laughing quietly, lost in his own world. Honey, Eli is your brother. He's not something to be ashamed of. I know, Chloe cried. I hate that I lied. I hate that I made him disappear like he didn't matter. But now everyone knows. They hate me. I don't know how to fix it. Her mom got up and walked over to her, wrapping her arms around her tightly. We all make mistakes, big ones, but the only way to fix them is to be honest, Chloe sobbed. In her mother's arms. They'll never forgive me. Maybe not, her mom said gently. But you can forgive yourself, and you can make things right one step at a time. Eli suddenly reached across the table and placed his hand on Chloe's. She looked at him through teary eyes. He smiled at her, wide, innocent, full of love. He didn't know what she had said about him, but somehow, in that moment, he still forgave her. The next day, Chloe didn't go to school. She stayed in her room, curtains closed, phone off. She didn't eat breakfast. She barely spoke, but by the afternoon, her mom came in and sat beside her. She held out a small booklet. It was filled with photos. Eli at the beach, Eli blowing out candles, Eli drawing pictures. Remember these? Her mom asked. Chloe nodded slowly. He's different, yes, her mom said, but he's also beautiful, and smart, and kind. You used to love showing him off. Remember how proud you were when he learned to say your name for the first time? Chloe smiled faintly. I do. Then don't let shame bury that love. If you want to fix this, start by telling the truth. Monday morning, Chloe returned to school. This time, she didn't wear her usual perfect outfit. No makeup, no carefully styled hair, just Chloe. As she walked through the halls, she felt the eyes on her again. But now, she didn't look away. She marched to the front office and asked the principal if she could speak at assembly. He raised an eyebrow. What for? I need to tell the truth. That Friday, the school gathered in the auditorium. Chloe stood on stage, clutching the mic, legs shaking. Everyone was there. Madison, the others, the teachers, even students who barely knew her. She took a deep breath. I lied, she said. I told people my brother was dead, but he's not. His name is Eli. He's 19. He has autism. A murmur rippled through the crowd. I was scared, she continued. I was afraid of being judged, afraid of being different. I thought, if I hid him, people would like me more. Her voice broke. But hiding him made me lose who I really am. And Eli doesn't deserve to be hidden. He's the bravest person I know. She wiped her eyes. I'm sorry for lying. I'm not asking you to like me again. I just needed you to know the truth. She stepped back from the microphone, expecting silence. But then someone clapped, then another, and another. Soon, the whole auditorium was filled with applause. She looked down and saw Madison, clapping softly, her face unreadable. After the assembly, a few students approached her. One girl whispered, "My little brother has autism too." I get it, a boy nodded. Took guts to say all that. Even Madison walked up to her later in the day. I still don't like what you did, she said honestly. But I respect that you owned it, Chloe nodded. I understand. There was no quick fix. Some people would still talk. Some would never forget the lie. But Chloe had told the truth, and for the first time in a long time, she felt free. When she got home that day, Eli was sitting by the window, staring at the trees. He turned and smiled at her. She sat beside him, gently taking his hand. Hey, Eli, she whispered. I'm not going to hide you anymore. He looked at her and said, clear as day, Chloe. Her eyes filled with tears. Yes, I'm Chloe, and I'm your sister. The days that followed the school assembly were quieter for Chloe. Not peaceful, but quieter. The whispers in the hallway didn't sting as much, and the looks she got weren't as sharp as before. People still talked, some still judged, but something had shifted. She had stopped running. Instead of hiding, Chloe started to rebuild. she joined the school's peer support group, a small circle of students who met once a week to talk about their experiences. At first, she just listened, but then, one afternoon, she raised her hand. "My brother has autism," she said slowly, her voice barely above a whisper. "And for a long time, I was ashamed of that. I told people he was dead. I thought it would make my life easier." A girl across from her gasped softly, then said, "You are the girl from the assembly." Chloe nodded. The girl leaned forward. That took a lot of courage. Chloe felt her throat tighten. Courage wasn't something she thought she had. Not before that. Same week, she started doing research online. She found blogs and videos by siblings of kids with autism. Some of their stories sounded like hers: guilt, confusion, isolation, love. Slowly, she started writing down her own thoughts in a notebook. Every day, after school, she wrote a little more. It became her secret therapy. Sometimes Eli would sit beside her, quietly sketching in his own notebook. He loved to draw circles, perfect, endless spirals. It calmed him. One afternoon, Chloe looked over and saw he had drawn 2 spirals side by side, one big, one small. He pointed to the big one and said, "Eli," then to the small one, "Chloe." Chloe laughed. "We're connected?" He nodded and smiled. That night, she wrote in her notebook, "Maybe we're not as different as I thought." At school, Madison still kept her distance. They no longer sat together at lunch, and she didn't reply to Chloe's texts. But she didn't glare anymore. That alone felt like progress. One Friday afternoon, Chloe stayed behind after English class. Her teacher, Mrs. Evans, looked up. "Everything okay?" she asked. I was wondering if I could write a personal essay instead of the book report." Mrs. Evans tilted her head. "What kind of essay?" "About my brother, and the lie I told, and everything I learned from it." The teacher smiled gently. "That sounds like something the class needs to hear." Chloe went home that day feeling nervous but excited. She stayed up late writing and rewriting the essay. She didn't hold anything back. She wrote about being embarrassed, about losing friends, about the night she told her mom the truth, and most of all, she wrote about Eli. She read it in front of the class the following week. It was quiet when she finished. Then a boy in the back said, "My cousin has autism." "I used to feel the same way." Another girl said, "You're brave." "I wouldn't have had the guts." Chloe smiled, not because she was proud, but because she finally felt understood. That weekend, her mom invited her to come with them to a local autism awareness event. Chloe hesitated at first. She pictured kids like Eli flapping, spinning, humming, and parents looking tired. She wasn't sure she was ready, but Eli was excited. He wore his favorite blue t-shirt and carried his drawing pad. When they arrived, the park was filled with families. Some kids were nonverbal, others wore headphones, some played with toys by themselves, but no one stared, no one pointed. For once, Chloe didn't feel like she had to explain Eli to anyone. They walked past booths with pamphlets, t-shirts, therapy centers, and support groups. One booth had a sign that read, "Siblings matter too." Chloe froze. A woman behind the table noticed her staring and smiled. "Are you a sibling?" Chloe nodded. "Want to join our teen group?" Chloe hesitated. Then, slowly, she reached for a flyer. As they walked on, Eli tugged on her hand and pointed to a table where kids were painting. He pulled her toward it. He dipped his brush into blue paint and began to draw a large circle on the paper, then another one inside it. Chloe watched silently, then picked up a brush and added a smaller swirl next to his. When they were done, he looked at her, pleased. He pointed to the swirl again and said, "Chloe." She felt her eyes sting. Monday at school, something strange happened. Madison sat beside her in chemistry. Chloe froze, unsure what to say. Madison didn't speak for a long time. Then she whispered, "I read your essay. Mrs. Evans let me borrow it." Chloe waited, heart pounding. Madison said, "It made me cry. I didn't know how hard it was for you." Chloe looked down. "I understand if you still don't want to be friends." "I was hurt," Madison said honestly. But I think I understand now. I just wish you trusted me. I wish I had too. They sat in silence a while longer. Then Madison said, "You want to sit with me and live at lunch?" Chloe looked at her in surprise. "You sure?" "Yeah, but no more lying." "Okay." Chloe smiled, her heart lifting. No more lies. That afternoon, when she got home, Chloe found Eli in the backyard. He was sitting under the oak tree, drawing in his pad. She sat beside him quietly, watching as he sketched. This time, he drew their house, then the oak tree, then two stick figures, one taller, one smaller, holding hands. He looked at her and smiled. She reached out, ruffled his hair gently, and whispered, "I love you, Eli." He looked up, and for the first time, said something she didn't expect. "I love Chloe." Tears filled her eyes, and in that moment, she knew something had changed forever. For the first time in years, Chloe began to feel whole again. The walls she had carefully built between herself and the truth were finally gone. No more pretending, no more lies. And somehow, through all the pain and shame, she had discovered something she never expected. Her brother, the one she used to hide, was now the person who gave her the most strength. The week after her essay presentation, the school counselor, Mrs. Kearns, asked Chloe to stay back after class. "I've been hearing about the piece you wrote," she said kindly, "and how open you've been about your brother." Chloe looked down, nervous. "Was it too much?" Mrs. Kearns shook her head. "It was honest, and honesty helps more people than you realize." She reached into her drawer and pulled out a small flyer. "There is a community event coming up next month, Autism Acceptance Week. Would you consider speaking at one of the youth panels?" Chloe blinked. "Me? Speak? Like, in front of people?" "Yes," the counselor smiled. "You have a voice, Chloe, and there are other teens who need to hear it." Chloe hesitated. "I'll think about it." That night, she sat on her bed, staring at the flyer. For years, she had wished Eli would change. Now, she wondered if maybe the person who had really needed to change was her. She walked into his room and found him building a tower with blocks, carefully stacking one on top of the other. He was focused, humming a soft tune. "Eli," she said. He looked up. "Would you like to come with me to something next month? It's like a celebration for people like you." He blinked, then nodded. The weeks passed quickly. Every night, Chloe practiced what she would say. Her mom helped her with notes, but Chloe rewrote everything in her own words. She didn't want it to sound perfect, just real. When the day finally came, the auditorium was filled with families, educators, teens, and volunteers. Chloe's heart pounded as she waited backstage. Eli sat in the front row with their mom, holding his drawing pad. The host introduced her, and she walked to the microphone with shaky hands. She could feel hundreds of eyes on her. She took a breath. "My name is Chloe, and I'm the sister of an amazing boy named Eli." Her voice echoed slightly. "Last year, I told my classmates that my brother was dead. Not because he was, but because I was ashamed." Gasps spread across the room. "I thought it would be easier. I thought if I just erased him, my life would be simpler. But I was wrong. Hiding him didn't protect me, it made me feel empty, guilty, alone." She paused, scanning the crowd. Her eyes met Eli's. He was drawing again, but listening. "What I didn't understand was that having a brother with autism isn't something to hide. It's something to learn from. Eli has taught me patience. He's taught me how to listen, how to love without needing words." Her throat tightened. "For a long time, I saw only what was hard. But now, I see what's beautiful." She looked at Eli again. He smiled. "And I just want to say this to anyone else who feels ashamed of someone in their life because they're different. Please don't hide them. Love them louder." When she finished, the room erupted in applause. Eli clapped too, loud and offbeat but proud. Their mom wiped a tear from her cheek. That night, as they walked to the car, Eli handed her a drawing. It was of her standing on a stage with a big red heart above her head. After that day, things began to change. More rapidly, the school newspaper ran a short article about Chloe's speech. Other students with siblings who had disabilities started approaching her, thanking her, asking questions, even sitting with her at lunch. One boy named Liam said his brother was nonverbal too. "I used to be embarrassed," he admitted, "but seeing you up there, it made me think, maybe I don't have to be." Another girl named Grace said, "I never talked about my sister's Down syndrome at school, but now I think I want to." Chloe realized something she hadn't before. Her story didn't just free her, it gave others permission to tell their stories too. Meanwhile, her relationship with Madison was slowly healing. They didn't go back to being best friends right away, but they talked again, laughed in class sometimes, sat near each other. During lunch, one afternoon, Madison walked with her to the front gate. "My little cousin was diagnosed with autism," she said quietly. "He's 2. My aunt's having a hard time." Chloe nodded. "It's hard at first, but it gets better. You learn." Madison smiled faintly. "You've changed." "I had to," Chloe said. Madison paused. "I'm glad you did." They shared a small hug. No promises. Just a moment. Back at home, things with Eli were better too. Chloe began helping with his therapy sessions more often. She learned how to help him calm down during meltdowns, how to communicate using visuals, how to make his world feel safe. One evening, as they sat watching a movie together, Eli leaned against her shoulder. He didn't do that often. She looked at their reflection in the TV screen, two very different siblings, yet deeply connected. "Hey, Eli," she whispered. He didn't answer, just hummed softly. "I'm sorry I ever said you were dead. I didn't mean it." He looked up at her, blinked slowly, then touched her hand. "Chloe," he whispered, and somehow, that was enough. Later that week, Chloe submitted a story to a national teen writing contest. It was about Eli, about her lie, and how the truth had saved her. 2 months later, she got an email. "Congratulations, you've been selected as a finalist." She screamed so loud that Eli covered his ears, startled but then giggled when she hugged him tightly. Everything had changed, not because Eli had gotten easier, but because she had grown stronger. The morning of the award ceremony, Chloe stood in front of the mirror, smoothing the front of her dress. It wasn't fancy or expensive, but it was blue, Eli's favorite color. She smiled as she looked at herself. There was a light in her eyes she hadn't seen in a long time, not the fake brightness she used when pretending. This was real. This was peace. Downstairs, Eli was playing with his blocks on the living room floor, humming like always. Their mom stood by the door, holding her phone to take pictures. "You ready, superstar?" she asked, her eyes shining with pride. Chloe nodded. "I think I am." The ride to the city was quiet. Chloe stared out the window, thinking about how much had changed in 1 year. She used to dread car rides with Eli, always worried he'd scream or make a scene. But today, even when he flapped his hands or repeated a line from a cartoon over and over, it didn't bother her. It made her smile. At the event hall, she saw students from different states and schools. The other finalists looked nervous too. Some were dressed up, some wore simple clothes. Chloe didn't feel out of place. Not anymore. She held her mom's hand as they walked in, and Eli held hers. When the announcer finally called her name to come to the stage, Chloe stood and took a deep breath. She walked slowly, the applause around her sounding like waves on the shore. She stood in front of the microphone. "I used to lie," she began. A soft silence fell over the room, not to hurt people, but to protect myself. "I thought if I told the truth about my brother, people would laugh at me. So I said he was dead." Some people in the audience gasped, just like they always did. But Chloe didn't look away this time. She held her head high. "My brother is not dead. He's here. He's alive. He's beautiful. And he has autism." She looked at Eli in the front row. He waved at her with both hands. "I was ashamed because I didn't understand him. Because he didn't speak like other kids. Because he made sounds and movements I didn't get. But the problem wasn't him. The problem was me. Her voice cracked a little, but she didn't stop. I lied because I was scared. But the truth changed me. It made me love better. It made me braver. And it brought me closer to the person I want to be. When she finished, the room was silent for a second, then the clapping began. And it kept going. Some people stood up. Her mom wiped her eyes. Eli shouted, "Chloe!" She laughed as she stepped down from the stage. Chloe didn't win the top prize, but that didn't matter to her. What she gained was something bigger. That night back home, she and Eli sat outside on the porch, watching the stars. He leaned against her shoulder, softly counting numbers under his breath. "Do you know you're my hero?" she whispered. He didn't reply, but his hand found hers and held it. Months passed, and Chloe kept writing. She joined the school paper and started a small blog called The Potter's Hands, a place where she shared stories about Eli, about neurodiversity, about growing up different. Her posts started getting shared. A few were picked up by autism awareness websites. Messages poured in from teens, moms, and even siblings just like her. "I thought I was alone," one girl wrote. "Thank you for saying what I couldn't." One day, Chloe got an email from a publishing house. A junior editor had read her blog and loved her writing. "Would you ever consider turning this into a book?" She stared at the screen for a long time. Could she really do that? Tell the whole story, not just the lies, but the pain, the learning, the love? Yes, she could, because now she understood the truth wasn't something to hide. It was something to build from. In the fall, Chloe applied for college. She didn't aim for fancy schools with perfect reputations. She picked a university with a strong special education program. She wanted to study psychology, maybe become a therapist, or a teacher, or a counselor who worked with kids like Eli. Her college essay started with the sentence, "My brother is the reason I found my voice." She got in. On her last day of high school, Chloe walked the halls slowly. So many memories lived here. Painful ones, beautiful ones. She stopped by her old locker and ran her fingers over it. Madison appeared beside her. "Big day," she said with a soft smile. "Yeah," Chloe replied. They weren't as close as they used to be, but there was a peace between them now. A quiet friendship that didn't need daily updates. Just mutual respect. Madison asked, "Do you think you'll write more about Eli?" Chloe smiled. "I already am." That summer, they had a small celebration at home. Nothing fancy, just balloons, lemonade, and music. Eli danced in the yard with his headphones on, spinning in circles, completely free. Chloe joined him, spinning too, laughing. Their mom watched from the porch, her eyes full of emotion. Later that night, Chloe sat by the window, her journal in hand. She flipped to the first page. There, in shaky handwriting from over a year ago, were the words, "I wish I didn't have a brother like Eli." She crossed them out and wrote instead, "I'm proud to be Eli's sister." Then she closed the book, knowing the next chapter of her life was just beginning, not built on lies, but on love and truth. The end.